Noise boy.
They must have been hungry.
Wow. Okay, that's enough for me.
How often do you feed them?
I'll tell you all about them now. These two white lions here are 14 years of age, and I do emphasise they are white lions because we've had people complaining they're not white, they're cream. They are white lions. They were born and bred at Mogo Zoo on the south coast of New South Wales. They went with two of their brothers to the National Zoo in Canberra. They were up there for a number of years, and then these two went up to Dreamworld, and they were up on the Gold Coast for a while. And then they went back to Canberra. And when they went back to Canberra, the timber of the line over here next to the tree stump was causing trouble in the group and couldn't be reintroduced back into the group in Canberra. So they were put in the off-display area for rehoming. And our two old tawny lions had previously died of old age, so we put our hand up to get these two. And even though we had a permit for 4 lions, it took nearly 18 months of hassling with the DPI, that's the government department that control the permits, to get permission to go and get them. We told the then director of the DPI there was a chance that these two were going to get put down because there was nowhere for them to go. And he replied, "It's not my problem," which is a bit of a shame because white lions are now rated as technically extinct in the world. There's only 102 white lions left in the world and we've got 2 of them. So we're a bit disappointed that he took that attitude, but anyway, we've got them. They've been here for just gone 5 years. The lioness over the back's 14, the old lion with her's 13. I went up to Darling Down Zoo the other year, that's a little zoo out of Toowoomba up in Queensland, and chucked them in the trailer and brought them back. And when they arrived, these two boys were in really good condition. And these two spent the first 3 weeks running up and down the fence trying to get the lioness's attention and lost about 40 kilos in weight each. But I tell people that's what girls do to boys, make them run around and lose weight. It took me a while to get the weight back on them again. Now they're in pretty near perfect condition now. Now lions, despite their reputation of being big and tough, are structurally weak in the back end. And if they get too heavy, they're prone to hip dysplasia. And once their hips are gone, that's the end of them. They've got to be put down. Because in the wild, they mightn't eat for 2 weeks, 3 weeks or longer. But when they're getting fed regularly, you do have to monitor their food intake. These two weigh about 240 kilos each. They get about 8 kilos of meat and or bones pretty well every day. The lioness over the back and the old lion, before I popped them in the trailer to bring them back, weighed them. She was 195 kilos and the old lion with her was 190. So they only get about 6 kilos of meat each a day. Now how you tell the weight of a lion, you'll notice a big flap of skin in under their belly. It's called a keel on a lion. And provided that keel has a decent fat cover, that's how you judge their weight. Because if they were 2 or 3 times the weight, they'd still look pretty much the same over the top. Their backbone and their hips don't change a whole lot. They store all their weight underneath. Now at the age they're all at, and this is all lions, if they were in the wild they'd be gone. Lions are lucky to make 10 years of age in the wild. In captivity they'll live anywhere from 20 to 25 years. And that's despite what Dr. Harry said on Better Homes and Gardens a while back. He was sitting up at Canberra Zoo with the deer we sent up there, and he said captive lions are lucky to make 12 years of age. Well, he was a little bit out. I'll have to correct him if I ever meet him. And the reason they live longer is because they get looked after, they get fed regularly, drenched at least 4 times a year. The special tablets we have to buy, they're the equivalent of 16 adult dog worming tablets each. Costs us $250 every time we drench each lion. We did them last week actually. We put the tablets in the meat and they come up to the fence and gobble them up and don't even know they've had their tablets. Except for the lioness, she takes the meat, flicks the tablets out and eats the meat, so we have to do other things with her. And they get a feline enteritis injection once a year, same as your domestic cat should have. Because we're one of the only zoos that take vet students from the unis, we've got one here today, David leading the dingoes around. If there's anything unpleasant to do around the zoo, should the need arise, like stick needles in animals for whatever reason, we'll get the vet student to do it. It's good practice for them because somebody in the zoo has to be the designated bad guy. And that job would fall to me, and they do remember and they do hold it against you. And the vet students are only here for a week or 10 days and they never see them again anyway. They think it's beaut because I just feed them and look after them. Now their colouring, they can be a lot lighter colour than this, not cream. Some people think white lions are albino lions. They're not. The gene that causes the colouring in white lions was isolated a few years back. And it's a chinchilla gene, same as your chinchilla cats. and that's what causes the coat colouring and the eye colouring. Their eyes can either be yellow or blue. If they were albino, they would have red eyes. Now, their diet, any red meat, beef predominantly. We do get donated old animals that can't go to market for whatever reason. They're pretty particular what goes in the sale yards nowadays. There's something wrong with them. Rather than the farmer have to dispatch them or get rid of them, they'll sometimes give them to us and I process them and put them in the freezer in the cool room. So we've had a good supply of meat lately, which has been beaut. They will eat other meat bar red meat. The couple who bring the organic poultry to Mansfield for the butcher shop and supermarkets had a freezer failure the other year and rang and asked would we like some meat. I said yes please, and they brought out 450 kilos of turkeys, chicken wings, chicken schnitzels and all those sort of things. And they dined on them for a while, but they got to the stage they wouldn't eat the damn chicken schnitzels unless I scraped the breadcrumbs off of them. So they got fussy. Red meat is their preferred diet. Now, pardon?
You try turning into a palm.
The reason white lions are all be gone from the world is because the poachers are watching in South Africa. Any cubs that are born, they get the opportunity, they'll grab them, slaughter them and skin them and sell their skins. They're worth a lot of money. There's a wildlife park over there, been breeding white lions for a number of years, trying to get up numbers to release back into the wild. The poachers got in the other year and slaughtered 11 of his breeding stock. So white lions are never, ever going to be back in the wild again. The only place you're ever going to see them now is behind wire in zoos and wildlife parks. So we're lucky to have them. And they are the only white lions in Victoria too. All right, that's giving you a bit of a rundown. Now, has anyone got any questions? Did that answer your question about the feed?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
No questions? Come on, don't be shy.
Why are they separated?
Well, a few reasons. These two boys are entire. The old lion over the back's had a vasectomy, so what he'd like to breed, he can't. If they ever got together, well, potentially they could breed her, but also they'd probably kill her. So they'll never go together. Now, lions aren't easy to breed. When I went up to get them up in Queensland, they've bred lions all their life. Now, they put a white lion over their two tawny lionesses 3 years ago, and the chances of getting white and or tawnies is about 50-50. They only bred at Christmas time, so it's not like sticking a bull out with the cows. They don't breed willy-nilly. They take ages to get used to each other. But the other thing which people are probably unaware of, well, a few things, we had to sign a stat deck when I brought the lioness into the state to say we wouldn't do any breeding. Well, the Department of Primary Industries was going to make us give her a full hysterectomy, and at 12 years of age and more than $5,000, we wouldn't have done it anyway. We hadn't intended to breed. Every zoo's only got a permitted number of what they call exotics that you're allowed to have. That's lions, tigers, zebras, whatever. And if you exceed that number, you'll be in big trouble. You'll be shut down, your animal's confiscated and destroyed, never to be opened again. It takes me all my time to find meat for the lions, dingoes and the alligator. It equates to I have to find the equivalent of a big old cow about every 10 days. I get through 600 kilos of meat every 10 days, so I'm always butchering something, so don't stand around too long. But the other thing which people are probably unaware of, and this ruling is only in Victoria, not other states. It was brought in by the previous director of the DPI, and unfortunately the new one who's taken over under this government in this nanny state Victoria has become, I'm proud to be politically incorrect, there's a bunch of idiots that couldn't run a chook raffle. They banned breeding of what they call exotics at zoos in Victoria, so no more elephants, lions, tigers, zebras, whatever. The only animals that come into Victoria now have to be desexed or single-sex species. Tried to get that ruling changed, had a meeting with the director of the DPI, and said to him if the ruling goes national, it could be the end of a lot of species, because breeding between the zoos is keeping species alive, albeit the gene pool's getting smaller, because importation from overseas has also been stopped. And he just folded his arms and pushed his chair back and said it's a country of origin's problem to sort out pending extinction, not mine, end of story. Felt like choking the idiot to death.
I was about to say, did you punch him in the face?
Yeah. But that's the sort of idiot you have to deal with in government departments, and you've all had dealings with government departments, and you know what I'm talking about. And if any of you happen to work for the government department, I've offended you, well, it's too bad, get over it. Because but to have the decision taken away by some fool sitting at a desk that's probably never even seen a photo of a lion or a tiger, let alone one in real life, is a bit disappointing. But no, that's the main reason why they won't ever go together, aside from the fact that they would potentially kill the lioness. They're very territorial. There was an incident at Dubbo Zoo, and this is no fault of theirs. They wanted to put a lion and lioness together to breed. They spent 6 months putting them, they had them side by side, then they put one into each other's pen, so they got the cross scent, and they put them together for 10 minutes, take them away gradually over a 6-month period, and they'd been together for 2 weeks, everything was fine. They came to work one morning, and the lioness was lying dead in the yard. They were devastated. Now what they think happened, it was probably perfectly innocent, because when lions fight, they fight head to head, and the lion possibly just went just a slash, maybe over a piece of meat, and his claw stuck in her jugular vein and she bled out. So that wasn't their fault, but that's potentially what can happen. So you just don't put them together. And as I say, it took Steve and Steph up at Darlington Zoo 3 years to get their lion to breed 2 tawny lionesses. So, and they were, well, I've been up there and they're beside each other the whole time. So you just have to be really careful with them. And also when I went up to get them, the owner's wife said, you better come and see if Delilah likes you, because if she doesn't like you, there's no point taking her. Because we've heard of people who have had their heart set on a career, students that have been here for placement, and you may be a really nice person, if for some reason the big cats don't like you, there's nothing you'll ever do to change it. You'll have to take another career path. So I said to Steph, how do we see if she likes me? She said, stick your arm in the cage and see what happens. I thought, fair enough, they know they're lions, so I just put my arm in the cage, and she came and licked me all up and down the arm, and she said, you'll get on fine with it, but I didn't ask what was going to happen if she didn't like me. I didn't want to know that bit. But if you've ever been licked by a domestic cat, you want to magnify that by about 45 or 50 times. It's what it's like getting licked by a lion. They've got incredibly rough tongues. Nearly take your skin off after
Could you
about
ever
6 weeks.
domesticate them?
Pardon?
Did you ever domesticate a lion? No, no.
Well, I mean, they are. They are.
I wanted a cub when I was little, so you know. But
Well,
it was
we
very
actually-
unplausible.
Well, we had a lady here, our 2 original lions who are buried under the trees now. They died of old age, 20 and 21. They were handled up till they were 18 months old, and there was a lady turned up about 2 years ago, still with the photographs. She was actually the last person to handle them. And she was, the photos that she showed me, my godfather, it was incredible. She had all the side of her face torn, her neck, her shoulder was all black and bruised, and they were just playing. She said, I mean, they just thought that that was just play.
Yeah.
But after that happened, I mean, she was quite happy about it, and she sort of had these battle scars, but she showed me the photos. Well, they get to about 12 or 18 months and they just don't know their own strength. But
Yeah.
we also had another lady here the other year who's spent a day with that guy. He was on TV a few years back. He calls himself the Lion Whisperer, or they call him that in South Africa. And he's got 21 lions, and she was lucky enough to go out with him for the day. And all of them, she said, you'd drive along and then he'd hop out of the vehicle and go out in the grass and lie down, and they'd all come over and romp and play with him and roll around. He's raised all of them from cubs. But the bizarre thing was that he told her that he knows one day they're going to kill him. Yeah. But he's prepared to protect his animals and live with them, and live with that. I mean, geez, how bizarre is that? That know you're going to get killed by your own pet, so, or potentially.
Was
Yeah.
castrating them settle them down?
No, the old lion, as I say, with the back's had a vasectomy. If you ever go to a zoo and you see a lion that you think, oh geez, is it a lioness? Is it a lion? They look all manky, they've got bits and tufts of mane. You can bet he's been castrated. It mucks their whole hormonal system up. So you only ever give them a vasectomy. Only because of their appearance, they just look horrible. There is one, I can't remember, someone told me which zoo it is. It's miles away that he's actually been castrated, and she showed me a photo of it. It looks terrible. I mean, I'd be putting him out of sight. It looks like he's just something quite dreadfully wrong, and it wasn't his fault. Yeah, they only have bits of tufts of mane, and it looks terrible. All right. Hey, boy, have you finished? Come here. Any other questions?
what's the reason for like the DPOs, like for not encouraging?
They don't give us a
breeding?
reason.
There's
They just,
no reason.
no
for that.
reason at all.
Oh wow.
So I'm thinking like obviously the dangers like with the lioness and the lions together, but like insemination, like all that kind of thing. No reason.
No reason. Just Victoria. Other states are fine. Just
Oh
this,
wow.
Just this nanny state. It's only Victoria.
Yeah.
Bloody gay state it is anyway. But I'll get started on the political debate because we're a lot pressure.
Yeah, we'll be here forever.
Yeah.
Yes. No, well look, we did ask them, we asked the guy from Albury who's a really good guy, he looks after us really well. We said, what's the go? And he said, well, they're not actually, he said, I'll tell you, we're not actually saying you can't breed, but he said, I will promise you that it would take that long to process the paperwork, the animal's going to be dead of old age anyway. So basically they're going to stop you one way or the other.
How ridiculous.
They don't want us, that's the trouble. The DPI unfortunately don't want the private zoos, they only want the government zoos, which is a bit ironic because they don't have any jurisdiction over the government zoos whatsoever. There's only 3 private zoos in Victoria here, Ballarat Wildlife Park and Halls Gap. And I did point out to Mandy, the new director of the DPI, when she was here at Christmas time, after she'd wandered around for half a day, I said to her, what's your background, Mandy? She's just taken over. Put her hands on her hips and she said, well, I'm a vet. Well, big deal. I said, does that, entitle you to make the decisions for the future of mankind, basically? It sort of looks like, just went over the top. They don't care. They do not care, and I did say to her before she left, I had to be a bit tactful. I said, just reminding you, Mandy, I said, you work for us. We pay your wages, and without us, you don't have a job. And she went, what? Adam from Albury standing behind going, oh my God.
Do you cut them? Like cut their hair?
No, a few people have asked me that lately, and I...
Just because they've got mats and stuff. How do they get rid of them?
They hopefully drag it off on the log when the warmer weather comes.
Okay.
But I'll give you a pair of scissors and a comb if you want to go.
I'll go for it, I will. I'd love to try, I'd probably get eaten,
The
but...
last thing you ever did.
Yeah, well.
When they get there,
If I get eaten by a lion, it's fine.
like when you say the vet,
That's how I go, that's how I go.
are they tranquilised or how's it
No,
done?
for their feline enteritis injection. No, in the shed there, I built all tunnels and like containment areas. Put them in there, even though it's only 500 wide. These boys can just turn around in there like that.
Yeah.
You distract them with a bit of meat, and whoever's there with the syringe pole, it's bang, and it's over and done
like
with.
that,
And then
Okay, so you don't even have to sedate them?
no, you try to avoid that at all costs because they're like humans. You don't want it. The less anaesthetic you have, the better.
Yeah.
So, no, you can manage that. When one of the old lions got an abscess under his tooth, he had a split tooth, and we had to operate on him to take his tooth out. But prior to that, we had to get the infection down. He had to have 12 big antibiotic tablets every day.
Oh wow.
And I thought, God, how do we get that into him? And he was pretty ramped up. Anyway, I thought, oh, well, there's usually ways and means of doing something. So I thought, well, cat's milk, I was thinking of a medium to crush the tablets up and put them in. And anyway, came down and I squirted milk in his face. And he went, oh, no, not even a bar of that. And I thought, oh, well, let's try some custard. So I got vanilla custard and I squirted it in with a 60ml catheter syringe, squirted it in his mouth, and he went, hang on, that wasn't too bad. He became a bloody custard junkie. He was eating 6 custard a day. The girls in the supermarket, every night I'd go and buy a box of custard. She said, what are you guys doing? You can't be eating all that much custard every day. I said, it's for the lions. He said, oh, rubbish, I don't believe it. But it was a way of getting the tablets at him and just crushed him up. He'd see me walking down from over there, he'd be up against the fence with his mouth open, just suck it in, squirt, and they've got the infection down, and then we were able to operate on him, which was a 3.5-hour operation. We knocked him out.
Giving him custard?
Oh, he got over it, but we had to knock him out. The shed wasn't there, and we sedated him and dragged him out on the grass out there, and I sat on him for 3.5 hours holding his mouth open while the vet, because you can't just pull the teeth out. His tooth was right into the jawbone. We had to cut it into it. It was a hell of an operation, but anyway, we got it out and he recovered. So
Yeah.
yeah, $4,500 later, which the vet said we won't give you the whole bill, would be too frightening.
Oh, that was mate's rate. So that was a friendly. That wasn't even the whole.
Oh, we had after vet surgery out here, we had the breathing apparatus, the anaesthetic machine,
of
the 2
course.
vet nurses, the vet, myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, we got it done. What do you want about? Oi, come here.
Guy a bit too close.
What do you want?
Oh, I didn't know that tall.
Where's your big pussycat?
Oh, he's got a broken.
Yeah, he came like that with a broken tooth.
Yeah.
So no one knows how it happened.
Oh, he's
That's something we're going to have to watch, and later on could be a problem. Go back to sleep now.
back chat.
They are much bigger than white lions are, a lot bigger than tawny lions. Anyway, head over to the, I don't know whether Bronwyn's waiting to feed the meerkats or not. Head on over there, I don't know whether they've been fed or not.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
That was pretty cool.
The meerkats get 3 meals a day. This is lunch, which is a bowl of fruit and veggie salad and a bowl of like a dog biscuit kind of a thing. For breakfast and for dinner they get meat, which is typically chicken necks. So you have to be really careful when you're feeding them meat because fingers look like chicken necks according to meerkats. And they'll grab your fingers thinking it's something that they should eat. Oh, they're funny the way they try and reach. You're so cute.
I love it.
No, they never stop being cute. Never. That's little Onch, that one that just ran down the front. He's the smallest one, and he's also one of the youngest. So he is 1 year and 6 months old. This is what they love. They love mung bean sprouts. Who would have thought that a meerkat would love those?
Are they from the same litter or family? Or?
They're actually from 4 different litters, and they were put together as a mob by Altina Wildlife Park, which is obviously where they were born. Dave would have outlined down at the lines that we can't breed the exotic animals, so that's why these are all just boys.
Okay.
There's 9 of them, although they're remarkably difficult to count.
Are they girls in the back there?
No.
Like separate?
No,
Oh.
they're not actually separate. You probably can't tell from where you are, but that gate's ajar, so they can go in and out, and there's also a little pop hole at the end. So
Oh,
if we need
okay.
to do maintenance or something, we can shut them in one half or the other half, which is really handy at times. But no, they're running as one mob across the 2 areas.
Do you ever hold them?
They climb on you when we sit in with them. You can't reach down and pick them up. That would be a threat, and they'd bite you if you tried to do that. But when we have time and we come in and just sit with them, then yes, they will climb all over you. I've had them climb up inside my jacket with a little head pop out behind me.
Aww.
They're the most delightful little things. They're preoccupied with food at the moment, but after a while, one of them had enough to eat. He comes and he pockets in my food, and he likes playing tug of war with my top. So these guys are an African animal. They're a native to the Namib and the Kalahari deserts of Africa. And the deserts get surprisingly cold. They can get to -2 degrees. So and obviously up into the high 40s as well. So these guys can cope with the cold, which is a good thing. Like all animals, their coats get thicker, but they do have heated areas of the enclosure, and their night beds are heated as well, just to make life a bit easier for them. We had a crow on the back, and there was a sentry sitting where he is, and the crow flew across the top of him, and he jumped up and tried to grab the crow. So they know different bird shapes mean different things. But if we have, like the other day, a couple of ducks took off from the pond here, and they make a lot of flapping when they take off, and that made all the meerkats run and hide. So there's all sorts of things that will, if they're startled, they'll just hide straight away.
Currently I'm back home now. I didn't record that much after I left, and some of the footage was like really bad. So I'm just gonna end it here, and if you guys like the video, put a thumbs up, and if you guys want me to do more videos, just comment down below, and I'll see you guys all next time. Bye.